He did everything right. For decades, he lived the kind of life most financial advisors would applaud. He built a successful career, worked long hours, saved diligently, avoided debt, rarely indulged himself. While other people were upgrading their cars, buying vacation homes, and expanding their lifestyles with every raise they got, he quietly kept socking money away. And it worked. By the time he retired, he had more than enough. His plan was solid. The numbers said he was safe. He could travel, he could spend more freely, he could enjoy the fruit of decades of discipline. But retirement came, and nothing changed. He still agonized over small purchases. He refused vacations. Dinner out felt extravagant. Every expense carried the weight of financial catastrophe, as though one unexpected bill might undo everything he had spent a lifetime building. Not because he had to live that way, because somewhere along the way, saving money stopped being a wise habit and became part of his identity. And honestly, people do this all the time in different ways. Some save so aggressively that they never actually enjoy the life they spent decades preparing for. Others give so much to their children that they quietly jeopardize their own future. Some become so committed to safety that they never take meaningful risks, never rest, and never loosen their grip. Which raises an uncomfortable question. Can good financial habits become unhealthy when taken too far? Scripture warns us that not only about greed and recklessness, but also about fear, anxiety, scarcity, and imbalance. So today we're talking about how saving can quietly become hoarding, how generosity can drift into enabling, and how even prudence and discipline, good things given by God, can become unhealthy masters when they stop serving wisdom and start controlling our lives. Welcome to Plan to Prosper, where we exist to honor God by helping faithful servants steward their finances wisely and build wealth that endures for generations. Alrighty, welcome to another episode of Plan to Prosper. Logan, I'm excited to talk about too much of a good thing.
Yeah, I'm going to feel like a little bit of an imposter in this episode, though. I feel like I'm the one that spends too much.
Yeah, I mean, well, I think that's fine. It's not like we have to be guilty of these particular things. Like we all struggle in different ways, and I think we've seen with a variety of people struggles on both of these camps. We're specifically talking about overdoing it with saving and overdoing it with giving to the jeopardization of your financial plan or your own mental health.
Yeah.
And we've seen that with different kinds of clients where they have a really hard time in retirement because they're so used to saving that to switch that mentally to start spending, they have a really difficult time with that.
Yeah, and I've seen at one point we had somebody agree to become a client basically at retirement, and he retired, and I think it was less than a week later he called us and said, "I just can't do this. I'm going back to work." That's
crazy.
And he had way more than enough money
totally
to make it through retirement.
Yeah. I mean, you could sort of understand it if you just really like working. That we have a lot of clients that are like this too, where they're just like, I'm perfectly happy to keep working. I don't have to, but I just like it. And I'm not even totally sure what I would do in retirement yet. I would kind of rather just keep working. That's fine if that's you. But there are some people that they cannot wrap their minds around this shift in what we're built. We're not saving for the future anymore. We're actually living off of the savings that we've built, and it's a real challenge.
Yeah, and in this particular situation, the person was probably mid-70s, and it was more of just I don't think there was much in life that made him happy, unfortunately. Yeah. He said basically, I think it was one child. My one child's grown. I have one grandchild because of that one child now. He's like 14. So I feel like I've done the grandparent thing already. The grandchild he's getting to the age where like, I'm not that cool anymore. So why not just work?
Yeah. And I think this is a good reminder for anybody that's, whether you're approaching retirement or not, or you're still in your early wealth building stages, like be thinking about what you want your retirement to even look like, because if you don't have a vision for it, it could very easily become almost like a crisis of identity, where you built this life upon, I work to provide, I work to save, I work to do all these things, and all of a sudden that's gone. What am I doing with my life? Like it's important to have hobbies that you're going to really prioritize in retirement, to consider how you can travel and how you're going to spend time with your spouse if you have one, and all those things. So it's not a terrible idea to begin thinking about how you want to spend your retirement years, because if you get there and you don't have a plan for it, it could actually be a devastating reality for you.
Yeah, and breaking news, Dalton, you don't even know this yet. We're going to have a better resource to help people think through this within the next month or so.
That's a fun little teaser.
Yeah.
For me as well. I don't know what he's talking about, but
I just found out about it yesterday afternoon. So
okay. Well, be on the lookout for that, whatever it is. So that's being too far on the side of the saving thing. The other one that we're going to talk about today is being, and I hesitate to even frame it like this. I actually said this on the podcast a while back, being too generous. And we're in no way going to discourage saving or generosity on this podcast. But I do think it's possible to, in particular with how you are generous with your own children, especially as they get into their older years. I think it is possible to go too far in that direction and jeopardize your own financial future.
Yeah, there can be, contrary to what many people want to believe, there can be too much of a good thing.
Right. And that's what today's going to be about. Most of the time we're talking about how to build generosity, how to build savings, more generosity into your life. That is probably for most people, that's going to be more the struggle is how do I become more of a saver? How do I become more generous? And we want that for most people. But today we're going to talk about in the rare cases where people are like saving to the point of being like a Scrooge-like miser where they can't literally spend an extra penny outside of their budget because it would destroy them mentally, or too generous where they're emptying retirement accounts to fund generosity for other people and then sacrificing their own future. So that's what today's going to be about. And I guess
the fun stuff.
Let's get into it. We're obviously, again, we're not anti-saving, anti-giving, anti-frugality, or anti-discipline in any way, but we did an episode about balance a little while ago, and that's what we are really striving for, is a healthy balance on all these things. Healthy balance on spending, giving, saving, investing, across those categories. We want to have good balance here.
Yeah, and we, I mean, there's certainly balance talked about, encouraged. I don't know about encouraged. I guess encouraged, but talked about. There's a time for balance. You find it in Ecclesiastes 3:1, where it says there's a time for everything and a season for every activity under the heavens. But then in Ecclesiastes, it goes through a bunch of different kind of contrasts. And the ones that I picked out that I think probably, I'm interested to see if you agree, probably are most related to saving.
Okay.
In Ecclesiastes 3:3, a time to tear down and a time to build. Ecclesiastes 3:5, a time to scatter stones and a time to gather them. And Ecclesiastes 3:6, a time to keep and a time to throw away. Mm-hmm. I can kind of see each of those having some relation to do with savings.
Yeah, for sure. There's other. That's a great passage.
Yeah,
time to mourn and a time to dance. I think like there's just great contrast that Solomon brings to the table there. That life is complex and it's not all in on one thing. That is rarely the case with anything. I think this word is like overused in today's day and age, but I'm going to use it right now, especially from podcasters. And that word is nuance, and that there is nuance to your financial life, to your life in general, that you can't just be 100% a saver and that is your identity. That's what you do. You don't spend a dime. You have to spend money on stuff. You have to find a place to live and spend money. You have to feed yourself and your family. You have to spend money on food. So you can't be 100% a saver. There's nuance there where, and it's like it's going to be different for everybody. Like some people are going to be able to save. There's like the FIRE movement where they're saving 40 to 50% of their income so that they can retire as early as possible.
Those people really need to figure out what they want to do in retirement, though.
For sure. That's a rare type of person, but some people can do it because especially really high income earners that make a really good salary that they're able to live off of 50% of it. Or R.G. Letourneau, who lived off of 10% of his income because he made a lot of money. Some people are going to struggle to get to 10%, and that's fine. You have to run the numbers to make sure the plan works for you with whatever your savings rate is going to be, but everybody's going to be different. And I think Ecclesiastes speaks to that there's a time for different types of things, even when they're actually seeming like polar opposites.
Yeah. completely off topic, but A Time to Kill, great movie. If you haven't seen it, you should see it.
Oh, I've seen it. I've read the book. Have you read the book?
Have not.
A fun story about that book. Madeline got that for me for like Valentine's Day, like our first year of marriage. And it's like a thick book.
It's a long movie.
Right. But it's like, it reads so fast. It's a John Grisham novel. And I read it in like 2 days because I just like couldn't put it down. It was one of those like, I don't know if guilty pleasure is the right word. It's not like some like robust 600-page novel. Like it's pretty easy to read. No offense to Grisham or anything. He's a very good writer. And that's why I couldn't put it down.
You read a book.
Yeah. Whatever. So anyway, good book.
Yeah.
Time to Kill, A Time to Live, as Ecclesiastes might say.
Yeah. It does say.
Well, I don't think it says a time to kill. And we shouldn't kill anybody.
Does it not?
Does it? Is that in there? I don't know.
A time to kill and a time to heal.
Does it really?
Yeah.
I'm sure it's
3-3. That's how it starts.
Oh, interesting. I guess there's a time to kill. I don't exactly know what. I mean, we have to kill our sin. War. Yeah.
There's plenty of wars back then.
True.
And now.
Yeah. All right. Fair enough. I'm not a pacifist or anything, but I didn't know that was in there.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's get back on track. So the first thing we're going to talk about, there's a time for everything, is the point. The first thing we're going to talk about is saving, over saving, or
just not stopping.
Yeah.
Or not stopping. Just paying too much attention to it forever.
Right. Obviously, saving is wise. We have encouraged that probably on every single episode of this podcast, and we're not going to discourage it on this podcast. But if you live in a state of just perpetual fear of spending, that might make it difficult for you to get to your retirement years, as we've already mentioned, to suddenly become a spender and not be a saver anymore. Like it's kind of a twofold thing. Not only are you not saving anymore because you're just not working anymore, but now you're spending more than you used to too as well, probably, or at least to some degree. That can be difficult.
Yeah, psychologically, you're going from kind of the thought of, well, even if I do spend, I can make up for it, to now I'm not really making up for anything that I spend ever again.
You get to retirement. Obviously, there's like Social Security and stuff. Maybe you have a pension, but in general, your income ceases at retirement. And
active income.
Yeah. So you are going from like my portfolio. This is what it is at the day I retire. That has to sustain me for the rest of my life. Is it going to run out? So there's a lot of anxiety here, a lot of questions about your identity, as we've already mentioned. Like I'm not a saver anymore. I'm a spender. The fear of running out of money. I think The Rich Young Ruler is a good example of a guy that trusted in his wealth, trusted in his riches. I think people that get to retirement are going to struggle with this, that there's like the anxiety stems from, I trust in this portfolio more than I trust God to sustain me. Like I'm relying upon this one thing and not, I'm holding this with an open hand and entrusting God to make sure that I'll be okay for the rest of my life.
Yeah. The Rich Young Ruler. I also recently read Revelation 3:17, where it says, "You say, I am rich, I have acquired wealth, and do not need a thing, but you do not realize that you are wretched, pitiful, poor, blind, and naked." So just want to make sure that you're not getting to the place where you're thinking, "Oh, I've saved so much, I don't need any. Like I'm good, I'm set." You still need to depend on God.
Yeah. There's like an inability to even enjoy what you've been building all these years. And that's just such a sad reality. Like you're spending 30, 40 years building this life that ultimately you aren't able to enjoy by the time you get to retirement. So I think there's kind of like a twofold thing here that I'm sensing is, how do you enjoy your life now? Like don't just be so focused on retirement that you're sacrificing the enjoyment of your life now, because by the time you get to retirement, you might not be able to make that switch. So enjoy your life now and build habits in that actually encourage a little bit of spending so that you can get to a place in retirement and you're comfortable with this concept of, I've been doing this anyways. I just am now no longer working and I can enjoy my life because I've been doing this the whole time anyways.
Yeah. And there's definitely, again, balance, because we also have clients who enjoy, but also it brings them joy to realize that they'll be able to leave their kids millions.
Yeah, for sure. No doubt. It says in our notes that like I think some people are excellent accumulators, but they're bad stewards of the enjoyment of it. So I think having just a good theology of enjoying the life that God has for you. Ecclesiastes is crystal clear on that. I've seen, like, I'm going to butcher the quote, but like Solomon's like that there's no, like everything is vanity. So like, I think I just want to enjoy the life that God's given me. I want to enjoy the wife of my youth. I want to enjoy good food, good wine. Like this is a good thing from the Lord that he gives us for blessing. We're not like stoics that are just like, you have to discipline every aspect of your life and find no enjoyment in it.
Right. Yeah, that's no fun.
No.
God wants you to have fun too.
Yeah. Now you can go too far in that direction, but we're not going to talk about that today because I think in general that's...
Solomon did that as well.
He certainly did.
Yeah, when he talks about the wife of his youth, I wonder how he determined which wife that was.
That's a good point. 1 Timothy 6:17 says God richly provides us with things to enjoy. So this is just, God likes to give good things to his children. We're not to worship enjoyment or pleasure or anything like that, but it is in fact a way for us to worship God by the ultimate giver of good gifts when we enjoy them in a way that glorifies him.
Yeah, and he also gives us bread instead of stones or whatever that verse in Matthew is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think the big thing is we want to encourage you not to spend your working years so focused on saving for retirement that it becomes a hindrance to you to actually enjoy your retirement years.
Yeah, and I feel like we kind of went over some reasons, but are there any other reasons that you can think of that people feel like they can't enjoy, or they just don't enjoy they don't actively enjoy their retirement?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of reasons for it, as we've touched on a few of them, but I think a lot of it is identity, that you're going from saver to spender. I think a lot of it is fear and anxiety over running out of money. I think it's just this mental switch that when you were working and you had, let's just call it $1,000 purchase that you were considering, you weighed every aspect of that. How does it fit into my budget? And all of a sudden, like, those decisions feel even maybe more amplified because like you said, you don't have the income to make up for it. Like, I'll just work harder and earn that extra $1,000 somewhere else. Like, you don't have that anymore. So I think it can amplify those kinds of decisions.
Yeah. I also think people that are like first generation wealth almost feel more of a weightiness to make sure that they don't put their heirs in the situation that they might have grown up in. Yeah.
And I think there is, like, I don't think that's a terrible thing to think about. That's not a bad thing. We're not discouraging that. So there is, again, nuance here. Like,
but when all the numbers say, don't worry, you're not going to put them in that situation, then you got to let go.
Yeah. We have some clients that have plenty of money. They spend very little of it, and they still are fearful about spending too much. And that's where kind of what we're talking about is this, like, I don't know how many ways we can prove this to you that you're okay. We'll stress test plans. I've stress test a plan where I'm just like, let me add an extra $50,000 per year in expenses and just see what it does to the plan. And it doesn't move the needle at all. And then I go, okay, can I add $100,000 of extra expenses? So this is just like, that's a good salary that you can spend per year for the rest of your life, and your plan still works. Is that enough to prove to you that, like, you really are okay? You can take a $5,000 vacation. It's not going to hurt you even slightly.
Yeah, I've presented those plans before, and I always preface it with, this isn't our recommendation,
of course,
but just look, you're okay.
I find it so funny when I have to stress test a plan like that. And because, again, we have to caveat, it's like, we're not recommending this, but we're just trying to figure out what is the number that it actually starts to stress the plan. And it can, for some of our clients, it's a lot.
Yeah.
They just don't spend money, and they have so much of it. So it seems like, what was the point of you building all this if you didn't have any vision of spending any of it? Right. And it's okay if you want to just leave all that to your kids, I suppose, but
be intentional about it.
Yeah. Because that can be dangerous too.
Yeah.
Super dangerous if you're not intentional about it.
Right. Yeah. Dangerous and just irresponsible.
Yeah.
You could have potentially, Lord willing, this doesn't happen, but you could have kids that it would just wreck.
Yeah. Yeah. An irresponsible kid that suddenly comes onto millions of dollars unexpectedly.
Yeah.
There's some prodigal son type people out there that would just go and waste it all.
Yeah.
Any other things that make it harder for retirees to start spending?
I mean, I think the only other thing that I can think of is the fear of like, what if tomorrow's the next Great Recession?
Yeah.
And there are things that we just can't know.
Yeah.
And that's why you do stress testing. But also, yeah, I mean, nobody has a crystal ball. God wants us to enjoy, and you need to make sure that you know how much you can enjoy and still be okay.
Yeah. I think frugality is in general a good thing. It's good to be thrifty. It's good to know where you can save money here and there and not spend just excessively that you don't need to. But I think there's an unhealthy level of frugality that can actually harm your relationships. I think, like in a marriage in particular, if you've got one spouse that's like more kind of concerned about overspending and the other spouse spends it could just be like a minimal amount on Amazon or something one day, or they go to Target or whatever. And it's just like, why did you do that? Like you can have this like marital conflict all of a sudden when you've got one spouse that's basically Scrooge and the other spouse that's just like, whoa. It was like $20. Like is that really going to hurt our plan?
Right. I might be wrong in this thinking. Now I feel like I need to go look at a dictionary, but I kind of think of frugality as always being a positive word, and what you just explained I kind of think of as stingy.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's right or not.
Yeah. I think of frugality as like I said, a thrifty is another word where it's just like you're being shrewd about, like wise as serpents, innocent as doves, kind of a scriptural principle there of I'm not looking to spend more than I need to. But I also think you can, I think you go overboard where you're trying to like maximize every dollar, and it can actually be detrimental. So what I'm thinking of is like, I know that this grocery store has the best price on this, and this grocery store on the other side of town has the best price on this. You could go so extreme on the frugality side of trying to like maximize every dollar that you're actually spending way more in gas, just trying to go to all these different stores. At some point, it's just like, just do it all at one store. It's going to be okay.
There's up by me, I'd say a relatively more expensive grocery store. I like going there because I like the local feeling, the supporting the local business. They're putting a Giant in right next to it, and I'm not going to the Giant. I'm going to keep going to this local grocery store.
I know which one you're talking about because it's pretty close to our house too, and we've never been. And I'm like, I want to start going there because I want to support a local business.
Yeah, I like it. They've got normal grocery store items, but they've also got a lot of local picks.
Sweet. All right, we'll do that soon. So you don't want to harm your relationship by being a miser and being stingy, as you're saying.
Right.
I think have open dialogue with your spouse about your financial life. Make sure you're on the same page with things so that those $20 random purchases don't cause friction when they don't need to.
Yeah, and I do think a lot of times opposites do attract. So you will have one person in the marriage who is better at, or potentially too good at enjoying the money that's been entrusted to them, and the other one that maybe wants to save and keep saving. So yeah, I do think that communication is good, and making sure that you're coming to that healthy balance.
Yeah. I think somebody that struggles with this too is going to avoid even necessary expenses. So your roof is leaking and you need a new one, and it's like that's expensive, and I don't want to spend that money. So we'll figure out a cheap way to do it, as little as money as possible, and it's only going to patch a problem, and it's going to reoccur later, or a car repair, or I don't know, any number of things, like something breaks in your house that you very much use and need on a regular basis, and you're just like, man, I'm not going to replace that. So I think like there's just things that like you need to be willing to spend the money on the things that you actually need and use.
Yeah. My grandparents didn't really keep up with their house, and I just remember moving them out. It was just walking through, and everything was, this house is a mess.
Yeah. There's an episode, one of my favorite old sitcoms is King of Queens with Kevin James. There's an episode where Doug and Carrie decide to go on, they decide to splurge on a vacation that was outside of the realm that they would typically do. They're going with friends to really nice vacation in the Caribbean or something. And literally the day they leave, Arthur, who's Carrie's father that lives with them, starts complaining that there's potentially like mold problems, or that his room smells really bad because he lives in the basement. And it's the day that they're leaving. They're literally like getting in the car, and Doug goes down there because Arthur's like, you're going to want to see this. And he pulls the panel open, and it's just horrendous mold all over. That's going to cost a lot of money to fix. And Doug just puts the wall back in place, and he just goes, you sleep upstairs and you don't mention this again. Like we're going on this vacation. And so they go on the vacation, and Doug just knows this whole time that he's going to have this huge bill waiting for him when he gets back. And so they go on this lavish vacation, and they suddenly have to scrimp and save everywhere they can. And so they're having dinner at 7-Eleven, and they're like just trying to save every penny that they possibly can. And when you do things like that, when you are avoiding the necessary expenses, it actually makes it impossible for you to enjoy the things that you're trying to enjoy. Now, in that case, they probably should have just canceled the vacation. I don't know if they could have gotten refunded or not, but I don't know how you would handle that wisely. That's a tough situation to be in, but
yeah, I don't mentally, like, day of vacation, I don't know if I could ever just cancel.
Yeah.
I'm like, day of vacation, I'm on vacation. It's over.
I think there was something. I think they might have said like this is not refundable at this point. Yeah. So like we kind of have to go.
The money doesn't even bother me. Like, my mindset would just be vacation mode though.
Yeah. Yeah. But they couldn't enjoy the vacation. They did not enjoy it. It was super stressful. So being able to enjoy the spending that you do, like that's a sign too. Just like, are you actually enjoying this, or are you stressed the whole time? And is it gonna come back in a conversation later with your spouse? It's like, we shouldn't have done this. This was a bad idea. Well, you agreed to it, so you should enjoy it. If you're gonna make the decision, be all in on it.
Yeah. Yep.
All right. That's spending. Any other thoughts on over saving and being unwilling to spend money before we move on to giving?
I don't think so. I think we've done well enough at encouraging people to put a limit on spending. Saving.
Saving. I know. It's hard to, we're so used to saying it the other way around.
Yeah.
All right. So giving, I think this is going to be the more controversial one that we'd be talking about. That is when giving could actually become dangerous.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think it'll be it sounds, when you just say it that way, it sounds bad. But I think when you think about it, you can definitely, it can be not controversial.
All right. So what are we not saying here?
We're not saying don't be generous. We're not saying don't be a cheerful giver. Those kind of things.
We're not saying don't help your kids. We're not saying don't sacrifice for the sake of generosity. Like, there's a time and a place to even give beyond your means. I think that is a good thing to push yourself in.
The kids one, though, you can go overboard.
Yeah. But you should still be generous with your kids.
Yeah.
Yep. So, wise generosity will consider the long-term consequences of the decision. And so, I'll just quickly read 2 Corinthians 12:14 says, "For children are not obligated to save up for their parents, but parents for their children." So I think the biggest example of this would be children that struggle into adulthood, that become financially dependent on their parents well into their adult years. And this is also coinciding with the parents' retirement years, most likely. You have kids in your 30s or 20s or whatever, and then by the time your kids are getting into their 20s, you're now approaching your retirement years. And if those kids are still very, very financially dependent on you because they have not successfully launched into their own lives, you could begin to jeopardize your own retirement by giving them too much and then almost enabling that behavior, when you should really be focusing at this point on, like, I'm going to stop working here soon. And this money that we've been saving up has been to provide for ourselves so that we could live for the rest of our lives. Because the flip side of it is, if you run out of money, you will then become the very burden on your kids that they are to you right now. Right. And that could be devastating to both of you.
Yeah. So I'm going to give you a scenario, because I met a guy a few weeks ago, and I've been thinking about it a lot. I don't know what I would do in this situation, and I'm interested. I'm going to throw out random numbers because I can't remember exactly what he said, but I'm going to guess based on, I didn't ask or anything, but based on kid's age and the amount of time he said he worked and everything, I'm going to guess he's probably 70.
Okay.
He was retired at one point. I met him in a professional setting. He's working now. He said he blew his whole retirement because one of his kids, and again, I can't remember the amount or anything, but he said this kid spent like, or went to like 20 different rehab facilities to try to get out of drugs. And he was saying it was like $10,000 a month. And that's why he blew his retirement. And I've been thinking about that. Like, what is the right situation there? Like, should he have not blown his retirement, but now his kid is sober?
Right.
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, that is tough. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't have any kind of good answer on what the right thing to do in that situation is, because it's really difficult. I do think there comes a time when an adult child is expected to be on their own, and if they've made their own their own decisions that have led them into a really poor place, I think there would be a time and a place to just say, I'm so sorry. Like, I literally can't help you anymore. Like you're not helping yourself at all. And, I can't spend any more money on this. I think there would be a time and a place for that, but I don't know where if they were there.
I think that's probably right. Because who knows what kind of situation this person's in now. It was a professional setting, but I wasn't providing financial advice or anything. Sure. I didn't know anything about this person's finances other than he still needed to work. But I think that's right. I do think that you have to balance both things. You have to be responsible for yourself. You also have to be a good parent, but also teach them how to be responsible, which doesn't necessarily mean providing everything for them.
Right. Yeah, it speaks to if your kids are still young, that this is a big part of just your responsibility as a parent to raise and disciple your kids well. Obviously, you're not ultimately in control of what they end up choosing to do, and you could do the best job in the world as a parent, and your kids could still decide and end up in a really bad place because of their own folly. Yeah. That's possible. But I think the more we can set our kids up for success so that by the time they reach adulthood, they're making wise decisions, that's better for everybody, obviously. Yeah.
But I also think some of that means even when they're kids, like I was thinking while looking at these notes, I was thinking maybe I should say no a little bit more when my kids say, can we have ice cream? Can we buy ice cream or whatever?
Totally.
So that they're not used to just getting what they want whenever because I'll pay for it.
Right. That's actually a really good point. My son, you have sons too. Maybe my daughter will do this too, but he's a typical boy, and so we'll get him a toy, and it's cheap plastic from China, and he's really rough with it, and it's something that he really wanted, and he'll break it fairly quickly, not because it just broke on its own, but because he's like being too rough with it. Like he'll play with it in a way that it's not intended, and he's just like really reckless about it, and then he starts complaining that it's broken, and it's like, I want a new one, and it was, well, no, you broke it. Unfortunately, like, we're just not going to buy you a new one every time you break something. It's a good lesson to take care of your things. We'll try to buy things that aren't so cheap all the time, but that's a good lesson to learn in these early years, that if you break something, it might not be replaced right away, if ever.
I am very much not a handy guy. But my daughter has this pen that has like a little, it looks like a stem on the end, and it like moves around, and two little leaves, and one of the leaves broke off just a few weeks ago, and she was so distraught about it. And I figured out by using like a book and like leaning it up perfectly how to super glue it and everything. And the next morning it was like completely fixed. It wouldn't, and she gave me the biggest hug.
Oh yeah, that's sweet.
Yeah.
We bought Theo a Spider-Man action figure for Christmas, and he immediately learned that because he's so into Spider-Man, I was like, he's gonna enter his action figure stage, which is gonna be sweet. He realized that if he like spread the legs all the way, like a split, it would look kind of like a bow and arrow. So he used it as a bow and arrow. He figured out that he could use it as a hammer. And so he would start hammering with it. And within 2 weeks, the leg broke off. And that's when we were like, well, you weren't using it. That was not a bow and arrow. It was not a hammer. It was an action figure and it's broken. Unfortunately, we were not going to replace it.
Yeah. Sometimes that has to happen.
I've seen this with parents that will drain retirement accounts to like pay for college. I think that's not a super wise decision unless you've run the numbers and realize, I could afford to do this. That's probably not the reality for most people to actually drain a retirement account so that they could fund their kids' college. A noble thing to want to do for your kids, but not a necessary thing.
Yeah. I've seen it done successfully though, as well.
Yeah. You can do it.
Realizing once they're through college, I'm going to have like $50,000 in excess cash flow that then I can just like
dump into it.
Yeah. So there's potential that you could plan that way, but you're also likely paying a lot in taxes and potentially penalties and all of that.
Yeah.
So yeah,
it wasn't a wise thing to do from the get-go, to plan.
You didn't plan well to get there.
Right. So I think that the desire to help your kids succeed is obviously a great desire. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, I think there just will become a time that your desire for that will turn into the opposite effect, where you're actually just enabling them to continue to not succeed on their own.
Yeah.
Because they know that mom and dad will always take care of me. Mom and dad will. And by you're 30 years old, you stop asking your parents for money. Like let them live.
Right.
If you're in that stage, or if you're a kid and you're in your adult years and you're still relying on your parents to get you out of trouble, get it together.
Yeah.
So this is not just a rebuke for parents. It's a rebuke for those adult kids. Stop mooching off your parents. Figure it out.
Yeah. Agree.
Great.
You can also be too generous to others or other organizations and become a burden to your kids.
Explain that a little more.
Like if every nonprofit organizations are good at figuring out who has money.
Yeah.
And so they will hit up all the rich people. Some people could just not know how to say no.
Yeah.
And give too much where it hurts their financial plan. And then end up needing to depend on their kids later.
Yeah. Yeah, I think have a good vision for your generosity. I think have the flexibility to be spontaneous in your giving when somebody does approach you and is like the other day, this kid came to, we were just outside playing with the kids out front, and this neighborhood kid walked up to us and he just said, "Excuse me, I'm raising money for my school's book fair or library or something. Just wondering if you might be able to give to it." And I never have cash on me, so I'm always just like, "I'm sorry, like I can't," but I feel a little bad, but I just happen to have cash on me. So I was like, "Would $5 help?" And he was like, "That actually helped a lot." And I was like, "Sweet, it's all yours." I appreciated him like being bold enough to ask me, but I want to have the flexibility in my plan to be able to do things like that. I mean, that was a $5 example, but there might be a time to give significantly more than that, even if you didn't plan for it spontaneously. So I think our generosity should be intentional, and you should know where you're giving your money to and be intentional with that, but also have the flexibility to add more to that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But not to the detriment of your overall plan.
Right. And at the same time, it was Andy Crouch that said, sit down and write a check that makes you feel a little bit uncomfortable. So yeah, I think there can be a benefit to, in certain occasions, obviously not all the time, but writing a check that, you know what, this is maybe a little bit more than I even planned to do.
Yeah.
But don't be a burden or a detriment to future generations.
Right. Like it's possible. Like if you just think about this logically, let's say you make $10,000 a month. You could write a check for $10,000 on any given month because you technically have that money. And suddenly you have no money to pay for food, to pay for your mortgage, to pay for anything because you've just given it all away. So I think that's a good example. Like when we say you're being too generous, that makes it sound like, how is that even possible? God wants us to be really, really, really generous, even extravagantly generous. Well, you just literally can't do that.
Yeah.
It's just not possible to survive when you give all of your money away. So and God is not calling you to that.
And you have things you've already committed to.
Yeah.
And God's not calling you to essentially be a liar.
Yeah.
I'm promising the bank I'm going to pay X amount each month. And if I give away all my money, all of a sudden I can't fulfill my promise.
Right. I'll give another example of this is not being generous with your money, but being generous with your time. I don't remember who it was, but there's a really famous preacher who's really well known, like a really, really gifted pastor, preacher. This is from a long time ago. He's not a recent example. That was just poured his entire life into his ministry. And it turns out that his marriage and family life was just an absolute wreck. Like his wife resented him because he spent all of his time at the church. He spent all of his time with his congregants and spent no time with his wife, spent no time with his kids. I think, you could be generous with other people to the detriment of your own family.
Yep.
So I think there's just kind of natural affection kind of calls to this a little bit, but to the point of being too generous, it's possible. I think we're just trying to prove that it is possible to be too generous with money or time.
Yeah, and that can even go back to balance and seasons, because sometimes there may be seasons where you're super busy at work, but you need to make sure that you're also fulfilling, or you're allowing for seasons where you are at home and spending time with your kids and family and all of that. So yeah, I think that's another good example of balance.
Yeah. So I'll kind of retouch on that verse that I read from 2 Corinthians, where children are not obligated to save for their parents, but parents for their children. You could hear that and go, well, so there it is. That means I should be generous with my kids. It says right there that I should be saving for my kids. Yes, but that is speaking, I think, it speaks to what we've already been talking about, where if you end up running out of money because you've given it all to your kids earlier, you are suddenly expecting, who are you expecting to help you when you're 80 years old and you're still alive and well, but you've run out of money? Your kids are probably going to need to help. Your kids that would be kind of the first natural place. Like, hey, we ran out of money. Can you help? Like, can we move in with you? Like, you are now flipping that verse, and it's your kids are now saving or providing for you, and that's not a good spot to be in. You don't want to be a burden on your kids later in life, and so the more you can protect that now, the more you actually are doing what that verse says by saving for your kids, so that when you pass away, you actually are giving them something. That you didn't spend it all.
And if they can't, then you might end up in a Medicaid home, and that's a crapshoot as far as how well you're going to be treated there.
Yeah. Yep.
And all I ever think about is Happy Gilmore.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
Best Ben Stiller act ever.
For sure. Any other thoughts on generosity before we kind of wrap things up?
I don't think so.
So I think we'll kind of speak more broadly now about the danger of financial identity, because it's easy to build your identity around some of these things. I'm a saver. I'm a giver. I'm a provider. I'm all these things. And
you can, I can picture the person like as the person with the identity of saving. Like it's just kind of a look how much I have.
Yeah.
It could be anything where they're saving, but also kind of showing where they're saving because they've got nice house, nice cars. So they're enjoying, but they just keep accumulating. Or like being a provider, where you're around. So like that your kids or whatever don't have to worry about a thing. And it's fun, knowing that you can provide. But again, we've kind of went over that, being generous, kind of always being the person, I'll pick up that tab or whatever.
Yeah.
You can kind of see each persona for each of those identities, and how it can affect you negatively.
Yes. And even though those are good things in and of themselves, it's good to be a giver. It's good to be a saver. It's good to be a provider. All those things are good things in and of themselves. they make terrible identities though when you wrap yourself in, because your financial life is just a part of your life. That's not who you are as a person. That's just a piece of a kind of a necessity in life. Like money is just a reality that we deal with. We need money to live and to survive and to, exchange it for the things that we need to live. But it makes a terrible identity. You can't put your identity in this part of your life because you're the rich young ruler then. And you're not trusting in God anymore. You're trusting in your own ability to provide, your own ability to be generous, your own ability to save. I think that is probably the biggest piece of this conversation today that we want to try to hammer home, is that anything in your financial life would make for a terrible identity, no matter what it is.
Yep. Yeah, agree.
And when your financial habits do become your identity, then it becomes difficult to adapt and to change it to something else. So like we said earlier, when your identity is saver, you are going to have a difficult time becoming a spender in retirement. And you can't save anymore. You're done saving. But you have a tough time making that switch. So don't make it your identity now and make it harder for yourself later.
Yeah. Yeah, or being the person who always writes the check to the organization. Yeah, all of those are going to be hard to turn off.
Yeah. Stewardship should serve your life. It shouldn't be the thing that is who you are. It's not your personality trait. You're a good steward, and it should serve your overall financial health, your overall spiritual health as well. You can't make it your identity.
Yeah, I think stewardship's more of an action.
Yeah.
Then I think it should be more of an action than a noun, probably.
Yeah.
I mean, I can think of people who I would think, oh, they're good stewards, but I think, yeah, it's more their act of being good stewards as to why I think that.
Yeah. Yeah, our mission that we say at the top of every episode is that we want to help faithful servants steward their finances wisely and build wealth that endures for generations. We're not saying faithful stewards.
Right.
That's just part of what a faithful servant does. Our podcast is specifically about stewarding your financial life. So obviously that's what we're mostly talking about, but that doesn't mean that that's what we're all about all the time.
Right.
It is in our work, but not in our lives.
I'm glad you agreed with me, because I always hated grammar, and I feel like I just did a grammar exercise.
Yeah, whatever. I think it makes sense. Yeah, we're not just stewarding our financial lives. We're stewarding lots of aspects of our lives. We're stewarding our golf game.
Some better than others.
True. So we're going to wrap things up. Go listen to our episode on balance. I think it was called The Great Balancing Act is what that episode's called. And we talked about our 5 uses of money that we start every plan with, where you can give, save, spend, protect, and invest, and how different seasons will call for different balance on those things. But in general, we're looking for balance across those categories. We're not leaning too far in one direction to the detriment of another.
Yeah, because we only went over saving and saving and giving
today. Yeah,
but you could go overboard on each of the other ones as well.
Right. And yeah, we believe that a healthy financial life is, it's another word we use in our industry a lot, is diversification. And I think diversification in our spending and financial habits is a good thing.
Yeah.
It's good to be a good giver as well as a good spender sometimes. That's an okay thing.
Mm-hmm. And biblical.
Yeah. So I think that our overall point today is that it is possible to spend too much. It's possible to save too much. It's possible to give too much. It's possible to go overboard in any one of these categories.
Invest too much.
Yeah. It's possible to protect too much. Like you could be spending way too much money on your insurance policies that you don't need.
Yeah. Yeah. Just because you want to make sure that in the worst case scenario, everyone's more than fine.
Yeah.
Well, I think, you should have some balance there as well.
Yeah. I would say most people probably don't struggle with that one, but it is possible.
Right. Because there are limits in what you can get, but they're typically, like buying a house, they're typically super high, the limit. So, yeah, I'm sure people can get there.
Yeah. All right. I think that's pretty much everything we needed to discuss today.
Yeah, I agree.
So, thanks for listening. I hope it was helpful. If it wasn't, and you're still listening, then congrats on making it through another episode. I don't know why you're still here, but...
Well, you're still here because you just saw Dalton screw up the table.
Yeah, I kicked it. And now there's a little glare on our cool sign provided by Westchester Studios. All right. Thank you, guys. Tune in again next week for another fun episode. Logan, are you going to reveal what this new thing that you're rolling out? What did you say it was? Retirement spending or something? What's the resource?
It's probably not next week.
All right. Sometime.
I think we're like a month-ish away. But kind of walking through how to be intentional in retirement.
Good. It's kind of what we were talking about today.
Yeah.
Cool. Like, comment, subscribe, all those fun things, and tune in again next week for another episode of Plan to Prosper. God bless.
God bless.
Investment advisory services offered through Stonecrop Wealth Advisors, LLC, a registered investment advisor with the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission. This material is intended for informational purposes only.